we move on to Wales and Italy. It's curious that this is the last game of the Saturday, but it is. It's going to be...
It's prime time for Wales-Italy, is a curiosity.
Yes, it's fifth place playoff.
Yes,
and it is 4:45 kickoff in Parky Scarlets again, the spiritual home, it seems, of Wales for the autumn.
Yes.
Refed by Wayne Barnes of the RFU, obviously. And weather conditions, as often as the case in Llanelli, seem to be tough and a little wet and just probably a rainy game. Hopefully it holds off. That's kind of what we're erring on.
It's the weather forecast, which has been wrong at times. We haven't.
We're going a few days. It's only Wednesday. It's inexact science a few days out.
Yeah,
so.
They reckon it might be wet, but it's not going to be on the scale of what we saw in the Scotland game or in the
Georgia game. Was probably the worst of it.
Yeah, well, the Scotland game was just freaky wind.
Yes.
That made it kind of a basket case of the game as well.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that bad, but it could be a little scrappy.
Yes.
From a colour point of view, obviously Wales have had their own issues this year.
Well, it's been a terrible year for them. There's just no getting around that. But they did manage to beat Georgia. Woohoo! And they put up a better showing against England. To be honest, there were kernels of positivity, but again, it was a defeat, and it's very tough to.
The spin has been more positive. Like a couple of weeks back, the pitchforks were out, and now this week you have like Ken Owens and Alan Wynne-Jones and a few others coming out and saying, no, we trust this process, we like Wayne, it's going to happen, it's going to be slow, it's a transition, we're moving to a different way of playing, which, to be fair to Wayne, was the model that he implemented in Scarlets.
Yes.
In terms of it took them a while, and then they built, and then they won a Pro 14, and then they made a European semi-final.
Yeah.
The critique would say that they hit that ceiling and then tapered off completely the following season, and I don't know about Wayne Pivec at all, but from a process point of view, he has that defence to point to.
He does.
So there does seem to be a bit more positivity around this Wales team, and certainly finishing the game with a convincing win over Italy would be a nice way to put this year to bed.
Yeah.
With a bit of confidence, a bit of spring in the step, and then they can come back in for what will be a crucial and decisive Six Nations campaign next year. He's not going to get that much time. He's not going to get to have catastrophic Six Nations campaigns 2 years in a row.
If he goes 1-5 in the Six Nations, or 1-4 even in the Six Nations, again, that's probably curtains.
That is going to be curtains.
Yeah.
If you wanted to be negative, you'd say this is possibly a must-win. Certainly, reading the Welsh media, there's talk that he might not make the Six Nations if he was to lose at home to Italy. Maybe that plug would be pulled. But so maybe there is if you want to be negative about it,
I don't know about it. Italy have never beaten Wales at home. I don't think so. Yeah.
If you want to look at it negatively, if you're determined to look at it in that way, some headlines are, there is that pressure on them where they cannot afford to lose this game.
This is true,
but they also shouldn't, and they should be confident that they won't.
No, indeed. And then from Italy's point of view, kind of no pressure by contrast. No one is expecting them to win the game. Probably not even themselves. But
listen, they've it's easy to be dismissive of Italy, but they have been building a bit of momentum, and they've been still frustrating in terms of defense, and still very slow progress, if any progress in that area, especially when their backs, just the quality of tackling from the midfield, especially in the second half, is dire.
Goes to
you look at the Xander Fagerson try and you wonder you wonder about the commitment sometimes to defensive
that is still
play.
One of the funniest tries of all time.
It's also one of the ugliest from an Italian point of view.
Yes.
It's just stopping, and likewise Teddy Thomas' try last week with the double missed tackle on Doolan, who while a tough little bugger, he's should be pulled down. There's question marks over their commitment in defence, but in the meanwhile they've been varying their game nicely in attack. They found a lovely 10, 12, 13 axis. They're moving the ball much sharper. They have a bit of danger in the wide channels. They have a much better kicking game that's allowing them to spend more time out of their own half in games. That's been transformative. They're getting more opportunities. You even saw it against France last week. They actually didn't convert. Their red zone offense is an issue, but they're getting more and more opportunities. And they'll be thinking about this game. They'll be eyeing this game like a Welsh team without much confidence, and them building slowly. They had a good first half against Scotland, they had a good first half against France. Can they put it all together here against a team that's arguably worse than those two sides, and really put the cat amongst the pigeons with a good performance that goes down potentially to the last 20 minutes, etc.
That's the idea. I hope so. I don't know though. But we will pivot on in terms of the squads. We actually just got the Welsh squad named. There had been noises about maybe Navidi being available, but obviously he hasn't been featuring. But Justin Tipperick and Liam Williams will return to the team, but it is a much changed team overall.
Yeah, well, interesting changes. We have managed to get the full team, but Nicky Smith coming in for Wyn Jones at loosehead, Sam Parry at hooker instead of Elliot Dee, Thomas Francis coming in for the unfortunate Samson Lee, who has been dropped from the 23 after just being wronged by Romain Poit, doing nothing wrong, and now he's completely out of favour, which seems ridiculous.
He won a lot of those scrums there.
Yeah.
There should have been more penalty
wells. Bad coaching as well to drop him for that. It's stupid. He didn't do a damn thing wrong. Romain Poit was at fault, not him. Rowlands comes back into the side over Jake Ball with Alan Wyn Jones. They maintain James Botham, the young man, at 6, but Tipperick and Faletau are in. Interesting decisions at halfback, you have to say. Kieran Hardy getting in at 9, Callum Sheedy in for Bigger at 10 seems mad.
Well, it's just the Italy game, innit?
Well, maybe
that's what they're thinking.
Johnny Williams at 12. They seem to have found their 12 in him. I'm happy to see him in there. Tompkins taken out for George North at 13. And then they have that all high flying world class back potential, at least world class potential in that back three of Rhys Sammet, Josh Adams, and Liam Williams.
Yes, great to see Williams back in there. And you had to have Gareth Davies to spring off the bench, like Wainwright similarly, Leon Brown as well, Corey Hill, even like a good Welsh team that they will be thinking they should be good enough to put an Italy side away. But the objective really is
just to look at it from a Welsh point of view to start with. They're looking to open up the Italian defence and do it early. And I think it is a statement to pick Sheedy over Bigger that maybe they're looking to buck the trend of kicking the ball the whole time and trying to attack Italy where they're weak.
Hardy as well. He's a nippy wee fella as well. Move at a good clip. And George North in the midfield, returning to the 13 shirt, is an interesting one. I'm curious how
power and speed. Like, this is what when Wales were at their absolute best, they opened up Italy by making them make hard tackles against fast big guys in the wide channels, and they have lethal danger out there. So it does need to be getting the flow going and punching holes, moving it away from the ruck, not playing the likes of Bram Stain and that big back row that Italy have into it from a defensive point of view.
If they can not feature at all, they will hose Italy, to be honest. And I think the signs are there from what Pivac's offense tries to do with the ball. Like, you've seen it struggle against the top tier defenses. You've seen it kind of not quite gel. But you have also seen it click on one phase and cut England apart on a few occasions, certainly back in the Six Nations. They should, with this selection coupled with like the notion and the intent they will have to play, they should be starting very quickly and trying to spread the ball and trying to force tackles out of Italy, which they are game for in the first quarter, but that diminishes if one try goes in, then another.
They should. I mean, there's a lot of kicking these days, and I'm almost never surprised. Like, if they end up having Sheedy come onto the team and put big bombs up to attack Minozzi. There's potential for it. Liam Williams is one of the best aerial operators in the world if you can get him after it. But I would like to see where Italy are weakest is in their defence and working them from side to side and owning the ball and owning the contact. And having a side back themselves a little bit more with ball in hand. That's kind
of what this Welsh team kind of need. If you're going to do an emblematic performance, like, there's very little, a lot of the times, that the people feel like the Italy game, you can't really learn much about it. It's kind of it's a poison chalice. Like, either you win comfortably or it's a very frustrating, disappointing day out if you don't. And that's kind of, there's no in between. But when you're looking at a Welsh side like this and it's the last game of the season, why would you kick the ball that often? Like, really try and hold it and move it about. You're at home here. You're against Italy. Like, even though there are no fans in the crowd, give your fans at home something to look at. You have Louis Rhys Sammet on the wing. Get the ball in his hands. Adams as well. Like, just
probe that midfield defence. Like, it make Carlo Canna have to tackle George North, and likewise Zanon. It'll really hurt what they can do to you on offense.
Exactly.
And like, obviously, if the weather's bad, you're going to have to play in some kicking, but make it be attacking kicking. Be a little more creative with what you're doing, and do back yourselves, because the Italian defence has not really stepped up, especially out wide. And they do need to back themselves and generate a little bit of belief in terms of the style that Pivac wants to play, which is flowing Italy is wide
slate of an ability. Yeah, you can paint
Rook
that picture,
2 passes before the next contact, those kind of things. And they're like, where Italy are strongest is their big back row that's going to try and attack the pill and rip it loose. You've got to get it away from those guys. You've got to move it into the midfield, have George North smash it up, quick ball round the corner. All of a sudden Sheedy has it and he's instantly giving it on to Liam Williams, who's looking at maybe a 2-on-2 or a 2-on-1 with Rhys Samad on his outside. Like that's the picture. And just beating them with speed and power. And Italy tend not to cope with it.
No, they don't. They don't at all. And Wales do love to play that way. So I would love to see that. Obviously, there will be some bombs up there, and I back them to have the edge in that area. I would hope again, Sheedy, like he the onus will be on him to kick a bit more accurately than he did. The weather conditions forced his hand against Georgia. He did have to kick a few times, and they weren't
may
great.
do again.
They may do again if it's ugly in Llanelli. They may force a few kicks. Bit more accuracy from Sheedy. This is another chance for him. He needs to up his game because it wasn't that impressive a showing against
Dan
Georgia.
Bigger is still firmly number one in my mind.
100%. So this is a good opportunity for him to mix his game as well. And then just in terms of the tide as well, obviously you do want to move it about and make it about power and speed in the wide channels. But the guys who are in there, Rowlands has got his chance on the back of his Wasps performances. Really did disappoint in some of those key decisive games earlier in the tournament, the Autumn Nations Cup. He kind of disappeared. He was not good against Ireland, and he was not good against England either. He's back in there. A big showing from him.
Making things scrappy and being wise to the fight that Italy might bring. Italy have been tenacious, especially in the first half. Like the likes of Alan Wynne-Jones at line-out time, having to negate what Bram Stein is bringing and being ready for that game is going to be crucial. Just getting your hands in everything and spoiling it, making things ugly, making things slow, not allowing the Italians to get on the front foot is going to be crucial as well. There is a concern, like Zanon is a fine attacker and Italy are moving the ball pretty well in that midfield.
And George North is...
That's what I was going to say. Like, George North has had defensive issues in the past and now he's in a 13 jersey.
And also there's the Welsh centres this year in this Autumn Nations Cup thing have looked disjointed regardless of who's in there. They've rotated them. And sometimes the line has been fractured due to no pressure at all. Like there was a first phase, I will go back to, I mentioned it last week as well, but there was a first phase move that Ireland did that a few weeks back that Sexton just ran through a mighty chasm that should not have been there at all, and the two centres were out of line and no one was talking and no one was signalling, and it was just like a weird systems error that's like ugh. And Italy, as you say, have a bit more competence in this area than they used to have. They will look to target it, so don't be fractured, be decisive. And it'd be nice to see them be assertive with their line speed. They used to be so ferocious with
something that they've changed. Like they sacked their defence coach obviously, but like so they don't really know what they want to be on defence.
Sometimes they're pushing, sometimes they're pulling, sometimes one guy's doing one thing and the other guy's doing the other.
The Sean Edwards is gone, but the identity of aggressive line speed and chop tackling and breakdown nightmarism that he brought, just suffocating defence, one of the best out there. To see that have totally leave the Welsh team is a problem, and it's something as soon as possible they need to rediscover.
Against Italy, it's such a good thing too, because as much as they do have the dual distributor thing, like they're only like they're a lower level of dual distributor, to be honest. They're a tier 2 one, so if you can bring that bullying speed and you have a guy like Tipperick who's so pacey who can apply that pressure, force them to kick loosely to you, and then you have your back three designed for kick return, tailor made, but you need to force their hand by putting the pressure on them and then receiving the kicks gratefully and then going into your offense transition very quickly. 100%. That's what you want to see from a Welsh side, is just a more assured and a more rounded full performance.
Absolutely. They will have a little bit of test in terms of the pendulum and the young men on the wings. Well, Josh Adams is not a young man, but they'll just have to be mindful of the varied kicking game that Italy are bringing as well. But from an Italian point of view, they have, as we say, they have nothing to lose in this. Their squad's finding a rhythm. They're adding a little bit more variety and a little bit more energy every week. Bram Stein found some form last week. He was very, very impressive, and Wales have been struggling. And I think this game, if you're Italy, if you're Franco Smith, you're looking at this as a potential game to really make a statement.
For sure.
To add a layer on top of what you've done the last 2 weeks, which is like compete for 60 minutes, maybe compete for 70 minutes, rattle Italy. And it's not a question of changing much, it's a question of executing really well. It's a question of getting Bram Stein on top of that Welsh pack, supported by his quality back row teammates, and then putting the pressure on Wales. Doing what they are doing in offence. They do not too much need to mix it up. Wales defensively have been quite slight. Getting Canna running through them, moving around the corner, backing Garbisi and Canna to mix it up enough to get the Welsh coming forward and kick it in behind them, to get Zanon in a bit of space.
Well. Zanon, one thing that does need to improve and has slightly improved but is still a little not quite sharp enough is they are doing a lovely, encouraging, ambitious shape where they're deep, wide, but when it takes 3 passes to get across the line, their passing has not been crisp enough for it to work.
But that's getting better.
It's getting better. It needs to another incremental improvement, like you're talking about. They don't need to abandon it, but they do need to be better at it if they're going to get purchased.
Adding to it, just getting that little bit better, that little bit more comfortable in Franco Smith's system. That's what it's all about. The red zone offense has struggled a little bit. That was an area they actually managed to edge a lot of the exchanges against France last week, but when they were in the red zone on a few occasions, they're doing a much better job of getting good territory in the game and possession. But they didn't really execute, and it is tougher when things tighten up. They did score one nice try, but on a lot of occasions they struggled and pittered out and ended up being turned over, as is happening to a lot of teams when they get down into that area. So that's something that they'll have to consider. I tell you, I'm going to make an argument for you that you might not like. I think they should probably take 3s.
It depends how much you're rating Wales. I don't mind taking 3s, but I don't think so in the first quarter. I really don't. I don't think they're building any scoreboard pressure. Even if they get 9, if they get 3 in a row,
that does build pressure. That does build pressure, especially when you consider Wales and. Wales are not expected to go 9-0 down against Italy, and they're reeling from a very tough year.
They're still a team that find tries. They found tries against England. They found a try against England last week. They're going to score at least 2.
One try. They're going to find turnover ball.
I'll tell you this: they're going to score at least 2 in the final quarter. More likely 3.
Maybe, but not necessarily. If they're down,
probably
not if they're feeling the pressure.
Yeah, but they won't be.
No, I think
from a 6-point lead or a 9-point lead, they won't be.
Whereas
a 14-point lead,
of course they will be. They're under pressure not just to win this game; they're under pressure to win it convincingly. If they're down, the last thing that Italy need is to get a penalty, go for a try, do a load of huff and puff and not get it, and then the ball comes away and then it's 0-0. They're edging the exchanges. They're doing a much better job of exiting, of controlling the territory. That's where they need to back themselves. And if they can get the edge in the first half, I think it's important that they need to get on the scoreboard and put the pressure on Wales. Just having Wales be behind, you can say they're not going to feel it. They're going to feel like they're superior against Italy. This is a disjointed Welsh team that is losing as a matter of routine. Italy need to put the pressure on them. They're expected to win this game. They're at home and they are rattleable. They're a team with brittle confidence. I think that if Italy get opportunities, chip over the 3 points, focus on your exit, focus on the forward battle, get back up there, take another 3, absolutely. If Wales aren't at the pitch of the game, if you can take a 9-0 lead, yes, it can go one way where Wales click into gear and they run through you, but it could also go Wales start feeling the pressure. And I just think especially with the quality of their red zone offense at the moment, that they could end up playing Wales into the game or huffing and puffing for no return if they end up going for the corner, as they did against France. Now in France, I think they were dead right to go for the corner.
Yes, they were.
Because France were too good, and they weren't going to survive that against France. They're not in the same position that Wales are. But in this game, I actually think for once that taking the 3s is probably the right option here for them.
There's definitely an argument for it. What I would say is if they go 9-0 up, they'll lose the game.
We'll see. I don't know.
I'm so sick of it with Italy.
You could just as easily say if they go 14-0 up, they'll lose the game.
No, they probably will. But they need, you're talking about their red zone conversion rate. They need to practice it, and they only have the energy to do that in the first half. They're not going to score tries in the last quarter. They just don't.
Yeah, I know.
The only times they score in the last quarter is when they're already 50 points to 0 down, and then there's a breakaway try. They're not at the level where 3 points makes that much of a difference.
I think if it's a bit of dogged conditions and Wales are feeling the pressure and out of sorts and not linking up well with one another, and George North is far from looking powerful and speedy, looking a bit like a big lump in there at 13, as can happen, and all of a sudden they're knocking balls on and they're not in rhythm, that there is scope for Italy to win this game 15-10. It could happen. And that's what I'm saying. But it's not going to happen if they keep going for tries and they're on nil. They end up losing the game. 15-10 themselves.
Yeah, potentially.
So, I think on this occasion, as we've made a meme every week of saying don't go for threes, Italy. On this occasion, I give them permission to go for threes.
Okay, I don't. I think it's folly, but you can back that all you will. All right. I think it's absolutely historically proven. I'm sure we saw again Zebra v Munster this weekend. They kicked 3 at 14-0 down, and it's like, great job.
Obviously in that regard, there's a sense almost of just not wanting to get nilled. Like last week, Georgia were, as it happens, they chalked it off with the try, which is great. But I think they would have bitten your hand off for a 3-pointer just to get the O off the board.
Yes. I know. Yeah, well, that's the sense sometimes for them. But no, if they want to actually compete with this Wales team, they need to put pressure on them by scoring their tries. And to be fair to them, their red zone conversion rate has improved. It has always been abysmal. It is slightly better now, and they are going for. They did kick that one to the corner. Obviously, it didn't convert, but they were dead right to. They need to just be a bit more accurate.
I agree. The
other thing about it is this Welsh team are get-atable in those tight exchanges, and it plays your guys like Bramstein and his line-out supremacy into the game. They'll gain.
When was the last time Italy scored a maul try against anybody, though?
No, I'm not talking about maul try, but it gets him winning the line out and then strike playing off it. Like Garbisi's taking the ball to the line. They can grab tries with this 10-12 axis. They need to double down on the faith they have in their offense that is getting better, just a bit more accurate. Like we were saying, even in the midfield, getting the passes a bit more crisp. I think there's gaps there against a disjointed.
There are, but they're there not from in the red zone, but from a little deeper.
No, but they can dominate some of those collisions in the red zone. They can run down
a
those
lot of teams not called Exeter are finding it extremely tough to find tries when they're on the goal line.
Yes.
And so I think that you can do damage to yourself.
Oh, it's true.
In an Australia-like way by just constantly going for the try, when actually it's easier almost to score a try when you have the ball on the 40 than it is on the 5 sometimes.
Yeah. No, it's true.
So I think we've had the argument.
We've had the argument. It goes deeper, but I'm telling you now, Wales are going to score at least 2 tries in the final quarter.
I don't know.
Least.
Maybe.
Probably 3, I would
say. If they're down when it starts, I don't know if that's true.
I think they will.
I don't know if it's
100%.
True. Anyway,
so that's my issue. I think that you need to give Wales 21 points in the second half already, and then you need to go, okay, Italy,
you're not winning the game,
we need to try and get to at least 21 points.
You're not winning the game then. If you're giving them 20 minutes. This is probably an appropriate point to just move on to the last point on Italy, which is, as always, the real key for them, more than tactics, is the defence.
Yeah.
That's where they've really been struggling.
It disappears in the second half.
Yeah, and this is the thing, it's not just we talk about tackle technique, but it's actually, there's an attitude issue going on there, I think, on defence. Especially, last week, it was when they got the yellow card. They were a little put upon, it was a harsh yellow, and then they conceded a try, and then the game was probably beyond them. And then they conceded 2 more tries in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
By missing tackles, by dialing out of the defensive game, and by not playing with the same focus. And they're never going to make it as a team unless they can develop a little bit more defensive hustle. And
that's undoubtedly true.
Yeah,
that's
and just playing with focus and determination on both sides of the ball, but especially on defence.
Yeah.
And sticking their tackles is going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah.
That as always is what we're looking for from them. And
it is tough because Canna versus Williams and some of the matchups in the back line are tough for them.
I've excused it in the past with that. Maybe these guys just aren't that good. But now we're seeing this season, it's actually in the second half. And I know you can say tier 1 versus tier 2.
No, there is a fatigue
but
aspect.
I think there's an attitude aspect.
There is
I think the heads drop. I think when they go behind and all, the heads drop.
Yeah, but it's coupled with going behind in the second half because they're already. That's they see the try go in, or they see a yellow card and they're like, that wasn't yellow, that was unfair, and then they realise, oh shit, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And then it's then you're only 50 minutes in and you're in Paris, and then the try comes, or you're only 50 minutes in and it's in Scarlets, and then there's the George North try, and it's that's what I suspect will happen again. So that's why I'm no, when you have the energy, try and get 3 tries. Especially the one that was the most criminal was the Scotland one a few weeks ago, where Scotland were abysmally poor in the first half, and Italy were good. And they kicked 3s as if they were in that contest for the whole thing, or as if they were going to be the same team they are now in the 80th minute, or as if Scotland were going to keep playing the way they were and the half-time break wasn't going to make a difference. It is. All of those things are going to be a factor. They need to start thinking in terms of, let's try and score 20 points a game, because they don't consistently reach 20 points and they consistently lose games. I think the first thing they should try and do is scored 20 points.
Well, I hear you.
3 tries is easier than 3 tries is easier than 5. What is it? 6 3-pointers. How many 3-pointers do you have to kick to get
7?
7 3-pointers.
But you might only need 1 try if you can rack up the score. I mean, we're going to go in circles having it, but I think
I believe it so much.
I know, and I think you were right about Scotland, because Scotland are a superior team playing with a lot of confidence. But I think against Wales, like, especially when you factor in the difficulty all teams, not just Italy, are having in scoring from 5 metres out, that actually the more prudent thing to do might be to just say, alright, we have the lead now, and while Scotland were supremely confident to go, I don't care mate, like, we're going to come back and do it, Wales are in a very precarious position.
It's true, but they still score tries. Italy outscored Scotland in that game. They scored 5 times to Scotland's 4, but all of Scotland's ones were tries, and that's the difference.
Yeah, I know, but Scotland are better than Wales.
Yeah, I know, but Wales still find tries.
We'll see. We'll see if they do. Well, anyway, in terms of predictions going forward,
I think we'll have a scrappy game. Italy will kick a few 3-pointers, maybe have the lead at half time or be close, and then Wales will blitz them in the final quarter and win by about 19.
I don't know what's going to happen. I think Wales probably too good, but I do think there's scope for an Italian win. I think if Italy go for the corner, they'll fail to score tries. That'll be my retort. So
6 small tries for Italy.
No tries. Yeah, no. They'll end up on nil. They'll kick 4 penalties into the corner and have like two not straight 9-outs and a bad transition.
Honestly, I think
and then one penalty
that
Falatau gets.
A better thing for them to do than to be on 6 points at full time. You know,
it depends. What if they win 6-5? I'm going to predict a 6-5 win for Italy.
Alright, with that ridiculous chat, I suppose we'll park it, because I think Wales are going to win that one. Thank you for tuning in to the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed what you hear, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below as well. We enjoy hearing your opinions too. Thank you.